Hey guys, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is Ankush from Alif Consulting. Welcome in our Azure Migrate video. In this video, we will be going to talk about how we can basically migrate our VMs or the workload from AWS to Azure, right? In our last video related to the Azure Migrate, we got to know what is Azure Migrate is, how it's work, and what kind of migration we can do using the Azure Migrate, right? This specific video is going to be a real world task, how you can configure or do the discovery, how you can do the assessment, or how you can do the migration of the VMs from AWS to Azure. Now, when you migrating from AWS to Azure, there is the three stages where you will be going to use Azure Migrate, right? So first is the discovery, second one is the assessment, and third one is the migration or migrate, right? So discovery is the stage where you discover the instances. Assessment is the or assessment or assess is the stage where you assess the environment, and third one is the stage where you completely migrate the VMs, right? So in this particular video, we will be going to understand how we can do the discovery, right? What are the steps, what are the appliances steps, what are the configuration steps you need to do to make VM or virtual machine discoverable from AWS to Azure Migrate project, right? So all of these three things, which is discovery, assess, and migrate, will be going to have a separate video, right? So we're going to have a three separate video on these three stages where each of the steps we will be going to understand in this each video now, right? Now, when you discover the AWS instance or the virtual machines, these are the steps you need to perform at the both side, right? First, you need to set up your Azure account. Second, you need to prepare your AWS instance for discovery. Third, you need to create the project on Azure Migrate. Fourth, you need to set up the migration appliance into the AWS so that that appliance can discover the VM and migrate the VMs or discover the VM so that further you can do the assessment by using the Azure Migrate appliance. Fifth, continuously discovery, which is going to be happen automatically as soon as new instances has been added into the Azure, sorry, AWS environment, right? So these are the steps, five steps which is are there to discover the AWS instance, right? So let's go and have a deep dive on the real world or see how the real world configuration can happen or can be used to discover the VMs from AWS, right? So I am already logged in into the to the Azure. I do have the AWS instances. So as of now in AWS, I'm running two instances. If you go into the instances, you will be going to see that there's a two instances has been running. So one instance is one instance or one virtual machine is going to be the appliance where I'm going to configure the discovery or discovery appliance or migrate appliance, and second one is the VM which I'm going to discover it using the appliance. So these are the two instances has been created. If you see the name, and these two are basically created into the East-US, right? And both of these two instances are into the same virtual network, right? On the Azure side, you need to have an account, right? You need to have a subscription, and then you need to set up the account which have the full access to the subscription so that you can connect or register your appliance into this Azure Migrate project, right? So as told into the slides, first what we need to do, we need to create the account which we already have. We need to prepare our instances in AWS. We already have done that by creating the two different instances. Third, what we need to do, we need to create the project, right? So to create the project, it's a very simple and straightforward. You first need to go into the Azure Migrate console. That's something you can do by using the search tab, and then from here you can go into the server data and web migrations, and from here you can go ahead and create the project, right? So then you need to select in which subscription you want to create the project. You need to define the resource group. So let me give it a name, right? What is the project name is going to be, right? where is the metadata is going to be stored for this project. So I want to keep it in India. And then we do have a connectivity method. Either we want to use the private endpoint or public endpoint. Since we are doing a demo or POC, we can use only the public endpoint. But in your real world, you can select the method based on your configurations requirement or the business requirement, right? And then you can click on create, right? So as soon as this project is created, we can use this project to configure our appliance and discover the things, right? So as you can see, my project has been already created. So if you see, I do have a multiple projects here. If you go down, as of now it's only showing one, but I do have a multiple project. But as of now, this is already into the migration project which I have created just now. And after that, once this project has been completed or created, what you need to do, you need to click on discover. Either you can click on discover here or you can do it on here also, right? So once you click on discover, you will be going to see two options, right? So first one is the discovery using the appliance and second one is import using the CSV, right? So what is the difference in between both, right? So the first option, which is discovery using the appliance, is going to use a application to discover the VM from AWS environment to the Azure Migrate project. Or the second option which we have is import using the CSV, where we can download the template, put all the configuration into that CSV template and can import this CSV directly into this project to do the discovery, right? So using the CSV can give you the certain level of information, but that something is maybe not efficient, right? So if you need a efficient or 100% correct data, I cannot say the 100%, maybe 90-95% correct data. That's something you can do by using the appliance, right? So once you click on discover, since our environment is virtualized, so what we need to do, we're going to have a three different option. Either it's going to be the VMware vSphere hypervisor, either it's going to be the hyperware, or either it's going to be physical or the other. Now, one important thing is when you're migrating a VMs from AWS, GCP, or other hyperscaler, it's always going to recognize those instances or VMs as a physical, right? So we need to select a third option, which is physical and other, right? Once you've done it, you need to generate the appliance name, right? For that, you need to generate the key, because this key is very important when you are registering this appliance to this migration project, right? So let me give it a name, right? And click on generate key. Meanwhile, this is going to take us some time. I can use this copy link and I can go to my VM and I can use Internet Explorer to download the appliance setup, right? That's something I need to do on the appliance. So I need to do on onto the VM, which I'm going to use as an appliance, right? So as I told you, I already have created two VMs. So this is my AWS VM where I'm going to configure the Azure Migrate appliance. So I need to go on the edge, right? I need to paste the link which I have copied, and it will help me to allow the zip file, right? So if you hit on enter, go on this link, and then you will see it's basically downloading a one zip file, right? So the downloading has been completed. If you go into the download, you would be able to see the zip file there, right? So go to the download and you will see this is the zip file which has been recently downloaded, and you can see I have already installed, or sorry, already downloaded the Azure migration appliance installer, right? So when you extract this one, you will be going to see this is the previous script which you need to use to install the appliance, right? You cannot do or you cannot run these MSIs directly, right? So you always need to run this script, and this script will be going to install all these components based on your inputs, right? So let's copy this path, go to the PowerShell, and make sure you should run your PowerShell as a administrator, right? Click on right click on the PowerShell, run it as an administrator, right? Now go to the script path, right? That's something you can do by using the cd command, right? looks like it's stuck. Yep, here is it. cd and then paste the path, right, where you want to move. Looks like the path has been not copied. Let me recopy it. Yep, this time is copied, right? Once you go in this path, you need to run this the psi, right? Just type az and click on tab. It will automatically pick the script. Yes, this is the script which you need to run, which is a ps1 file. Click on enter. Once you run it, it will be going to ask few questions, right? So it's asking you, do you want to run this script? Yes, we want to run. And then it's going to ask you a few questions, right? So it says it's already installed, right? This appliance is already registered because I have already done it, right? So do you want to continue? Yes, I want to continue. What is the type is going to be, right? So as in our Azure Migrate project, what we did, we selected the physical one. So we'll go for physical one. And then what is the cloud is going to be? It's going to be the public one, right? And then it is going to be the default public endpoint. It's going to be the private endpoint, right? So you need to select one if you're using the public endpoint, and then you need to select two if you're using the private endpoint, right? As soon as you're done and click on enter, you don't need to do anything. You don't need to press any button on this script. It will automatically install appliance on this system, right? So once this appliance has been installed, how this appliance is going to be look like, right? In this machine I have already installed, right? So to save some time. But in your real world, when you answering all of these questions, like what is the environment type is, what is the cloud type is going to be, and what kind of connectivity method, it will automatically install all the components. And on the desktop you will be going to get a shortcut with name Azure Migrate Appliance Configuration and Configuration Manager, right? So you need to open this one. As soon as you click on, it will be going to open a page in your Edge browser or maybe in the Chrome browser, depend on the default configuration if you which you have on your server. And then you need to run further process in this web browser, right? So it's going to take a few seconds to open the page. In my case, because my configuration of this appliance is very low, right? So it's going to ask you a few things. First, it's going to check the connectivity. Second, it's going to check the time. Then it's going to ask or check for the verification project key. So this is the project key which we need to change, right? So if you go back to the portal, you would see there is the new project key has been generated, right? So we need to just copy this project key, and then we need to just update here, right? So give it us some time. Let it check the auto update status, and then we would be able to change this Azure Migrate project key, right? When you're doing this configuration first time, this section of the project key will be blank. But in our case, since I already have done the few configurations in my this lab, so this key is already picking from there, right? So as soon as this validation is get passed, I will go ahead and update this project key, right? So auto update status is take a little time, so that it can update or it can get a new update directly from the Microsoft to always keep your appliance up to date, right? So yeah, just let's wait for this process, auto update status process to get completed, and then we would be able to update the project key. uh, yep so this auto status update, it's still taking a little more time, right? It should not take this much of time because I have already updated and done all this update process. However, since I'm doing the reconfiguration, so it's running this process again and again, right? So Yeah, let's wait to get this auto update status to be turned green, and then we'll move forward. So finally this auto update status is turned green. Now let's go ahead and change this key. Somehow I'm not able to done that, so just give it a minute. Rerun the checks. uh, okay, so this is the project key which I have already there, but when you so somehow I'm not able to change it because it does not allow me to do that because this appliance is already registered. But in your real world, this section will be going to be blank, and then you can go ahead and update the project key, right, which you have copied from the project which you have created it, right. So in my case, I already have the Azure demo project created. So if you go back, if you go here, if you drop down, this is the project which I have already created, right. So yeah, I mean, you just need to give it a few seconds. Since I have rerun the prerequisites, it's going to take us again the same time to get the or turn the auto state updated green, and then we will be going to move further. Meanwhile, let's go back and see what is the things it's going to show you, right. So once this discovery is configured or completed, you would be able to see this dependency analysis and the uh, assessment thing, right. So assessment and dependency analysis is going to be visible to you, and then from there you can basically do the further work, right. So like you can discover the item from here. All the discovery items would be going to be available here, right. You can go to this subscription, and then you can select your appliances, and then you can select for project, right. So this is my project which I have picked up, and from here it's going to show you what are the discovery items are there, kind of things, right. So all of this information, if you have done any import in the specific project using the CSV, all of those things would be visible here. In the same way, if there is any other informations, you can do into the another tab, right. So this is the where you can discover all the items, right. So yeah, let's go back to the VM and see what's happening. So yep, everything has been done. Now let's go ahead and log in it. So once you log in, which means you are authorizing this appliance to get connected with this Azure project, right. You need to copy this code and click on login, right. As I told you, what you need to do, the first step is to prepare the account, right. So that account will be used by this appliance to get connected with the Azure Migrate project and do the rest of the discovery, right. So in my case, I already have created a one user which I'm going to use for this discovery, which is this Alif user at Alif Consulting demo.onmicrosoft.com is already available into the my Azure AD tenant. Although you can use or create a separate user for this appliance, and then you can define the permission on top of that. So let me enter the password and click on login. Let me and then click on continue, right. So signing process has been completed. If you came back, you will be going to see the login has been completed. Auto registration, so registration of this device is completed. Migration key is also verified. Now next step is you need to enter the credentials for the VMs which you want to discover, right. So in my case, I'm going to use the second credentials which is there, but in your case specifically, you would might be using, or since you are running a more VMs in your real environment, so you might be using a one generic username and password across all the VMs, or maybe you have a domain account which can use to discover the VMs, right? So that's depend on how your centralized management or management of the VMs or the user you have, right? So in my case, I already have created a local user with administrator, so I'm going to use that users at the credential to connect with the VM, right? So once you added your credentials, what you need to do, you need to add the discovery source, right? So either you can import the CSV file to do the discovery, either you can add the multiple line items here, or either you can add a single source also, right? In my case, I'm going to add a single source since I only have a one VM which I want to discover, right? So let me go back to the browser, go back to the demo VM which I want to discover using this appliance, right? So this is the private IP of this VM. So let me go back and enter this password into the discovery, right? So as soon as you added a discovery source, you need to map the credentials. Like this is the credential which I have already added, right? And click on save. And it's going to run the validation. As soon as validation is completed, which means it's successfully connected over the 598.5 port. Now, what is this 5985 port is? 59854 port is basically used for Windows remote management, which is protocol, which is also known as a WinRM, right? If you then further want to do the any kind of agent dependency discovery of the VM which credential is mapped, you can disable this one, right? Or you can enable this one. In my case, I want to go ahead and do the discovery, agentless discovery, right? Discovery of the SQL instances, or if you want to add the domain credential, apply authentication kind of things, you can add directly from the here, right? And once you've done it, what you can do, you can click on start discovery. So it's going to take a few seconds. It's initially going to take discovering the one VM, which can take up to 2 minutes to do the complete discovery. As soon as your discovery is completed here, you would be able to see this demo VM into the Azure Migrate project, right? So let's this discovery to get completed, and then we'll move into the Azure portal and see what is happening there. So discovery is still happening. It's taking a little time. So yeah, let's wait for this to get completed, and as soon as this get completed, we will be going to move into the Azure portal to see what's happening there. All right, it's still taking more time than what we have expected. So usually it's take not more than 2 minutes to do the discovery. Most probably the region should be, or maybe that we are running on a very lower configuration of the VMs on our AWS side for this POC. So that's maybe the reason it's still taking a time, right? So meanwhile, since discovery is getting or going on, let's go ahead and into the portal and see what's happening there, right? So if you go into the project, if you go here, or if you see, you're still not able to see anything there because the discovery is yet not completed. As soon as discovery is completed, you would be able to see the VM here, right? And if you even if you go into the here, you are not able to see anything, right? If you select the Azure AWS project, if you click on refresh, you would still not able to see anything here because the discovery is yet not finished. I did have a refresh this project, and let's see if there is anything coming or any updates is coming here, right? So as of now, nothing has been done on the Azure side. So as soon as it's done, you would be able to see the discovery as instances, right? And then you would be able to see how many VM has been discovered, kind of things, right? So let's go back to the VM and see what's happening. It's still doing the discovery because maybe it's taking a little more time. So yeah, that give it a time, and let's go back, right? So once this go back to the portal and see what is the next step. So once this discovery is completed, next step is either assess or either do the analysis, right? So analysis or assess, both are the different thing. The dependency analysis is something which is used to see, right? So let's take an example. You are running a 510 VMs, right? So and you want to do the dependency analysis to see what are the things is there, right? Or what are the connectivity dependency they have, what are the service dependency have. That's something you cover under the dependency. And then the assessment is something where you assess the whole environment, right? Let's see if discovery is completed. It's still taking a lot more time than what we have expected. Let's do the refresh at the Azure side to see if this is showing anything here or any discovery item or anything there. No, it's still not showing. It's still refreshing. So refresh is completed, but yet we are not able to see anything here. Okay, so the validation is completed. Started discovery, you can see the discovery is going on for this VM. And yeah, no, it's nothing. You can see the discovery has successfully initiated. You can go to the Azure portal to review the discovery inventory, which means the discovery is successfully completed. Now let's go back, refresh this one, and see what is happening here, right? It says it's refreshing, and to see in a quick, we can go here, we can search for AWS migration appliance, or maybe the other project. We can see if we find anything here. Not here. Yep, so you can see the discoveries. So this is the project actually we are seeing. Yep, this is a project which we have created. So probably we might be seeing into the different project at the another tab. So you can see this VM has been successfully done, or discovery and validation is in the progress. Now if you go back and if you see, you are able to see how many VMs has been discovered, how many appliances you have. So you can see it's have a one appliance which is this, right? These are the discovery assessment agent has been installed. This is the project where it's this is the resource group where it's registered, and this is the project where it's registered, or this is the appliance name, you can say. And then further you can see how many VMs or things has been shown here, right? So as of now, since discovery is in progress, so it's going to show you during the assessment how many VMs is there, how many Windows VM is there, how many Linux VM is there, right? On the other side, if you go back, you will be able to see the discovery is already initiated. So which means things has been completed from the appliance side, right? So it's already initiated. Now, as soon as discovery is finished, what you see, you will be going to see how many VMs are there. So what you are saying is you have a one VM, right? So if you click on discovery, you would, sorry, not here. If you go to the discovery item, what you will be going to see, you will be going to see a VM, right? So this is the VM. If you see 10.0.0.49 is the VM which we have added as a demo. So if you want to view or validate the name, right? So this is the appliance VM and this is the other VM, right? If you go into the name, this is the name of this demo VM. So the name of demo VM is inside the VM or inside the operating system is G50LM06. And if you go back to the portal, that's the correct name, right? So which means although software inventory dependencies, other things are still in progress, however, it's successfully able to show us the VM and able to discover the VM into the Azure Migrate, right? So this is how you discover the AWS instance by using the Azure project, right? I hope you like this video. If you like, please click on like and subscribe for more upcoming videos, and feel free to reach us if you have any questions.